Good afternoon and welcome to our first YouTube video. We are looking to do some regular videos about AI and technology in Microsoft 365. There's an effort to try and help keep our customers up to date with everything that's going on in the world at the moment. We recognise that there's a lot of information out there about technology, but a lot of it is directed towards enterprises, and what we want to try and do is redirect that for small business usage so that our customers can make better use of all of this technology. My name's John and this is James, and we are both consultants at Heliocentrix.
Yes, so as John said, we're going to focus on how AI is impacting and the opportunities for small businesses. Obviously, we are a Microsoft first organization, so a lot of what we talk about will probably be revolving around Copilot. However, that doesn't mean we're going to not only talk about Copilot. If we think there's other things going on that are important or relevant, then we'll obviously talk about those as well when they come up. The plan is to keep these reasonably brief with a bit of a
Brief and informal.
Brief and informal and informative.
Yeah.
With some interesting quick updates at the start and then some more detailed updates in the second half. Yes, we are going to be recording these live, so we are as live as we can. So they are going to be a bit rough. We will endeavour to get better as we go.
Okay. So first thing I wanted to mention today is the addition of voice mode in Copilot 365. So Copilot 365 is the paid for premium version of Copilot that Microsoft produced for businesses. The voice mode I find is a really great way of starting to interact with data and the AI in a different way to that traditional blank text box that we've become so accustomed to with other language models like ChatGPT and Copilot and Claude and all the others. And I think voice mode is going to really start changing the way that AI works for people. So it's currently being rolled out at the moment, but what you'll find is that you have your standard normal chat box in Copilot 365. But what you've got across the bottom is not just the microphone option, which is voice to text, but also the audio option, which allows you to just talk to the AI in normal language. Now, I'm going to try and do this as a demo. We shall see if it works. I've got my iPad here, and here we go. What emails have I received from James Earl today?
You've received 3 emails from James Earl today. One was about 20 minutes ago, just a quick note mentioning it was a demo email.
So hopefully you heard that. Put the microphone back on. And it talks about, in that case, I asked it about emails, but also you could just ask it anything you could in the normal text box. We'll probably talk about about this on our blog at some point.
Yeah, I think this is a really interesting new ability, and while at the moment it might seem perhaps a little bit gimmicky, yeah. I mean, we've seen it elsewhere with ChatGPT has had this feature for quite some time now, actually, probably 6 months or so, I would think. And as I say, it maybe feels a little bit gimmicky at the moment, but I think that this could really have an impact on the way that we interact and do work, because I can see a world or an office in 6 months or a year where people are still using a keyboard and a mouse to do most of their work, but actually perhaps have a headset on and are talking to Copilot at the same time. So they're able to work on something whilst Copilot is assisting them, providing them information or updates or summarizing certain information for them. And that seems probably a little bit odd initially to be talking to your computer. But I think people will get accustomed to it once they realize how powerful that can be as a productivity tool.
It's funny, I've been doing IT for 20 odd years, and the number of times people have said to me that they wish the computer knew what it was they wanted. They could just talk to their computer. And now they've got that ability. It's going to be interesting to see how people actually make use of that.
Yes.
And I have just noticed even today that this little symbol is starting to appear in other parts of the Microsoft Copilot space, inside applications as well. I think this voice ability of AI is really going to change a lot of what we do. Obviously, there are some people who are using systems at the moment that allow them to set up voice agents, voice AIs on the end of a telephone. And I believe there is some software that's being released for restaurants to allow help for bookings. But also people are starting to use it for interviewing either their team or customers about what they're doing to try and collect data, because it's much easier to get a larger sample size when you're using AI. I think I even heard of one company that's set up with their senior managers to do a voice call to everybody at the end of a week and then use that information to create a stand-up.
Yeah. I think what I would really love to see is all of these big companies where you call up their customer service line, rather than having to press 1 for this option and then 12 for this option and 3 for that one, and you could spend 20 minutes before you even speak to somebody or get to the right department. Just picking up the phone and saying, hello, I need to speak to somebody about my gas bill. And actually, it can route you directly through to the correct department. I think that would be really powerful.
So for the moment, obviously those bits aren't currently available directly in Copilot 365. There are options available for that sort of thing. But for the moment, voice mode is there. It's being rolled out to people. I would suggest it's worth having a play.
So the next thing we wanted to talk about is agents inside Microsoft Office. So for anybody that's not aware, agents is a big buzzword around AI at the moment. There's a lot of disagreements or no fixed agreement on exactly what an agent is. Generally, we talk about agents in terms of giving a AI tools to be able to complete actions. That's how we tend to look at agents. But Microsoft, when they first released Copilot, they did promise a lot in terms of how it would be able to interact with the Office applications. So that's things like Word and Excel and PowerPoint. And up to this point, it's had some uses, but it's not been quite as good or anywhere near as good as what we were hoping. So Microsoft recently signed a new deal with Anthropic. So for anybody who doesn't know who Anthropic are, they're a competitor to OpenAI. They have their own models, AI models, and theirs are called Claude. And Microsoft have signed a new agreement with them to bring their models into Copilot. And now they're using those models as a basis to create agents within the Office applications to be able to interact a lot more and complete a lot more actions to be more productive. So we've seen that they're launching Excel, Word and PowerPoint, with Excel being the first one. And that is now available. Unfortunately, it's only available in the online version of Excel at the moment, but hopefully it'll be coming to the desktop version soon.
Yeah, I think we're going to see that for a lot of features. They appear in the online version first, and then they get rolled out to the desktop ones later. And Microsoft has done a lot of work to try and standardize those products across Windows, Mac, online, mobile over the last few years. So it should make these new features much quicker.
Yeah. So it's good point here to note is that, again, you do need the paid for Copilot license to access the Office agents. But we're going to quickly show you here. If you do go to Microsoft on the web, you just need to go to your usual Copilot button in the top right hand corner. Once you open that, you then need to click the little sort of filters icon, or the agents icon, I think it's becoming. Once you click on that, you should be able to see the new agent mode. So once you click on that, you'll then be able to interact a lot more with your data inside Excel.
This is new. I've not done a lot with it yet, but when I do training on Office applications, I quite often hear people saying that they once upon a time knew Excel functions and now they've completely forgotten that information. And I suspect agent mode and AI is going to make those functions redundant, because you're just going to be able to ask the AI what you need and it'll do things.
Yeah.
I think this is a really good example of how Microsoft is approaching AI at the moment. They've started off with a integration with OpenAI, and they've reconfirmed that deal recently and extended it. They have gone further and actually signed a deal with Anthropic, which James mentioned, which is a competitor, and they're also building out their own models. All of this is happening, but your main interface is just Copilot. So as a user, you get the best of breed across the spectrum without having to pay for lots of different subscriptions. So,
the next thing we're going to talk about is notebooks. So if any of you attended our Copilot training day back at the start of October, we talked a bit about notebooks there and how we think they're a really powerful tool. Again, notebooks in general are available elsewhere in ChatGPT. I think they're called projects. Google has its own version called Notebook LLM. And essentially what they do is notebooks bring together a collection of resources. So that's could be Word documents, Excel files, loop pages. It brings them all together into a single location, and then you can chat with Copilot and it will reference those documents. So this is really quite a good tool. We've got a few different use cases for it. So I think John and I both use it when we're doing specific projects for clients. So we'll put all of the project resources into a notebook, and then you can obviously not just ask Copilot about those resources, but actually get it to create more content or ask questions, use it to build a strategy in relation to that project based on the information that it's got. Another one I have is a marketing notebook, which has got things like our tone of voice document, our messaging pillars, some examples of our marketing content to help me generate things like LinkedIn posts and blog posts as well, and ideas. So when you're in Copilot, you'll see that we have notebooks down the left hand side. So you just click on that button there that says notebooks, and that'll open the notebook page for you. You can then create a new notebook and start adding resources to it. So as I said, you can add Word files, Excel and loop pages, and your chats are all stored within the notebook as well. So you'll be able to reference back and see all of those. And then a couple of additional features with notebooks as well. So you see that we've got edit Copilot instructions here. So that means that you can give Copilot specific instructions in terms of a role that you might want it to play. So marketing notebook.
So I think this one here, you've just said acting as a strategic marketing consultant.
Yep, exactly. You could also say that you always want Copilot in this notebook to respond in rhyme or in song if you wanted to, or any other instructions in terms of how you want it to reply to you. Another nice feature as well is you've got the play audio button. So what that does is it actually enables you to create a podcast or an audio overview of the notebook. And you get a few different options. So you can have it as a single person dialogue, you can have it more as a conversation, and it uses AI to generate that and turn it into an audio file for you. I thought that was a really odd feature to add when they added it, mostly because one of the big drawbacks of notebooks so far has been that they are only related to you. So you can't share them with any other people inside your team, which means that you can't collaborate on them or use them more as a team tool. However, we asked Microsoft very nicely, and they said that because Heliocentrix is so important, they'd happily add that feature for us.
It's a sarcasm there.
No, they've been working on that feature, I think, for a while, and finally it is starting to roll out. I think hopefully it's going to be rolled out in the next few weeks before Christmas. And I think that's when the audio overviews might get more powerful, because you'll be able to collaborate on them, and therefore you might want to get a podcast based on all of the updates that have happened since you were last working on it.
I think audio overviews are coming elsewhere. I believe they're coming into SharePoint as well now on individual documents. So it's something that there's going to be a lot more happening as AI gets better with voice.
Yeah.
Okay. So finally, just one more thing I want to talk about, and this is the power of agents. We're going to try and look at different ways that we use agents and how other people might want to use agents over coming videos. This week, I want to talk about an agent that I created about 3 weeks ago. Probably took me less than half an hour. It's a really simple agent. But for a lot of small businesses, you have a small team. But if you get to a size where you can't keep track of everybody, so in our case, we've got about 10 people, I can't keep track of who's here each day. I can look at a calendar, but actually all that information is stored in my HR system. So what I did was build an agent that every day in 8 o'clock in the morning will go onto the HR system, find out who's on holiday, and then come back and send a Teams message to the entire team about who's in and who isn't in, so that people don't have to keep asking me and they don't have to go and check calendars. It's just there at the start of the day. And what this does, as I said, it just goes on, connects to, in our case, Breathe HR, gets the data, interprets that information, sends the Teams message. Just for a little bit more interest, I also asked it to include the weather for the day using a separate API connection. And all of this was sort of achieved with agents and Power Automate and things like that. As I said, sort of thing that you wouldn't necessarily spend a huge amount of money on, but the fact we could create this very quickly, very easily, I think was all done in less than half an hour, and it just solves a little problem that we've got in our business. That is great.
Yeah, I think the interesting point with this is that we could have built this manually and structured every single step and told Power Automate you need to do this with this information and that with this information. But by using AI, we simply give it the raw data saying these are all the holiday bookings that you've got access to, use the AI to summarize it and put it into a message. And it makes it a lot simpler, not just to create. I think you said it took you about 30 minutes, whereas it probably would have taken you 3 hours.
Yep, I've tried this before and it definitely took a lot longer than 30 minutes.
Yeah, and the other great thing is if we wanted to change it or tweak it slightly, you don't need to be as technical because you can go in and change the prompt that handles the conversion from data to Teams message, and it will just change the format, or maybe you want to include a joke rather than having the weather. So it makes it a lot easier to manage as well.
Yeah. Okay, that's it for today. It's been, hopefully people are going to be listening to this. We are going to try and get better and more organised with these as time goes on. If you are finding these useful at all, we would appreciate it. Just put in the comments and likes and do subscribe. We hope to try and do these on a much more regular basis, covering lots of topics. Of already having ideas for what we're going to talk about next. But for the meantime, like and follow below. Thank you very much.